Alright people, what's up everyone? Welcome to another reaction video for another SunnyV2 video, and this is how one joke collapsed a popular YouTube podcast. It's the Bobby Lee podcast. I didn't know that one got, what do you mean collapsed? And like no one watches anymore? Or is it done? I had no idea. I thought it was still going on. I never watched it really. I only watched like little clips here and there. But alright, let's go. I like Bobby Lee. At least I think I do. Pretty sure. Anyway, so let's go. Let's just take a look at this. Let's just get right into it. Link in the description. Go watch yourself. 3, 2, 1, play.
On episode 351 of the
What'd he say?
podcast,
What'd he say?
Bobby Lee made one single joke which completely wrecked the relationship between the three hosts, Logan, Mike, and most
okay. Oh, okay.
Is he really mad? Is he really mad? Oh, I know beef with a guy? I don't know. I didn't do anything wrong.
For context, Logan and Mike created the podcast back in late 2018.
I'm okay with this.
And it's safe to say that these two have always had excellent chemistry. Their personalities work well together. They seem to be pretty good friends, and generally speaking, they exhibit
I'm okay with this. One less thing with Logan Paul is fine with me.
The host, on the other hand, has proven much more difficult. The first 150 episodes featured a third host named Spencer, who eventually left the podcast to move to Hawaii, after which the role went to Logan's childhood friend Mac, who'd then also leave after getting into a fight with Mike over their difference in interests. On episode 219 in September 2020, the next and most recent third host was announced as George Janko.
It's a white guy in blackface.
Of Impulsive, my best friend, George Janko.
That would be very controversial.
George was introduced as a more emotional counterpart to Logan and Mike, as he had a reputation for wearing his heart on his sleeve, while Logan and Mike were almost the exact opposite. In addition to this, George was a devout Christian, with discussion about his own spirituality, adding another layer of contrast to what had previously been
boo. I mean, this whole show, fuck
George
it,
practiced the art of stand-up comedy, although it'd be through comedy that he'd eventually meet his ruin. One thing was glaringly obvious from George's very first appearance. He simply wasn't on the same level as Logan and Mike. Logan has succeeded with everything from vlogs to Prime, while Mike has overcome his own set of challenges and has proven himself as a fantastic interviewer who meshes well with almost every guest on the show. George, on the other hand, has always felt a little too much like, well, just another guy who Logan met at the gym.
Logan, I met him at a gym.
George never had the chance to refine his interviewing skills to the same degree as Logan and Mike, which is only accentuated by his seating position to the right of the guest.
I completely lost interest after finding out it's not Bobby Lee's podcast.
Much harder for George to engage with the conversation.
Especially now learning it's Logan Paul's podcast, I'm like, oh, I definitely don't care now.
The obvious imbalance between George, Logan, Mike, and usually the guest as well leaves George with a needy personality and an overpowering desire for approval, leading to over-the-top questions and comments, often producing a clunky viewing experience.
I need to know more about you. Like, how did you figure out that like this entertainment world was your calling? That's what I was gonna say. I said it, so I was gonna say it, but I said it. No, it's good. It's good. I was already funnier than the kids around me, so I was like, I can tell the joke that they're gonna make fun of me, but even better. And I made it about myself. So I was like making fun of myself, like really self-deprecating myself.
Generally speaking, George's attitude wasn't severe enough to upset any of the guests. However, on episode 346 with Shaquille O'Neal, George was slapped in the face with a bit of a reality check.
They got
For the first
Shaq,
11 minutes of the podcast, George didn't say a single word, leading Shaq to confront him about his lack of input.
Hold on, you ain't gonna ask me a question?
He waits.
He's probably too scared of you.
Wait until he's got. Bro, listen, man. I read the Bible line when they talk about David and Goliath. I've never seen a giant, and so like I'm literally just. I'm a little taken.
You've been sitting over here for 30 minutes, and that's all you can figure out. That's the question. Jeez.
I'm just sitting.
Are you drunk?
I have one question. Is there any chance I could, for 2 seconds, put these up so I can hear what's going on?
Take them off. You don't have to ask the producer. Just take things off.
Okay.
After making the excuse that he couldn't hear due to his headphones, George sat quietly for another 11 minutes, after which he was scolded again.
What the fuck are you doing here? Ask a question. Jeez. He's your partner?
He's the newest.
You might want to give him his 2-week notice. Ask the question. Honestly. Jeez. You're just sitting here like a bobblehead going.
Yeah. No, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you because I couldn't hear, but...
And it's safe to say
I can't hear.
Again in George's confidence. He'd already joked about how difficult it was to be the third host in the past.
It's hard to be the third person on a podcast. We have two very vocal main hosts.
And after the Shaquille O'Neal episode, it was obvious that George's confidence had fallen off a cliff.
And then recently I've been just getting really nervous that I'm not doing well enough for the podcast anymore.
Only 5 episodes after Shaq roasted George, Bobby Lee would join the show for Impulsive 351, during which one single joke would send
Oh, I thought
the show
never mind. I thought they got Lena Rhodes in the podcast. I was about to watch it.
The episode began with Bobby taking a little jab at George by suggesting that Mike was cooler.
You have everything. Cool friends.
So
you have cool friends like this guy? Well, oh, yeah, no.
Yet things became a little more contentious when George took it from fun to borderline aggressive.
Some people just don't like sucking dick. Now turn around and know the wisdom I give you.
Whoa!
Before displaying more arrogance just a few minutes later.
How about you?
First of all, what's my name?
Sensing George's clear insecurity, Bobby began to roast George whenever he got the opportunity.
You have a girlfriend?
Yeah, I believe.
Is that your girlfriend? Without fame, you wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George wrote a 2.5-minute monologue about the struggles he faced in his life.
And I don't mean this in a cocky way, but like, dude, this put me on a very strong map. And it made a lot of my avenues blow up. So I'm very blessed, but I didn't know I was going to be here. So
it's like that's... You done? That was just a long monologue. It was just like... I like what you were saying. It was just very long.
You done?
Yeah, that's usually... Yeah. That's usually... But, you know, I got what you're saying, and you really inspired me, George. Can I say something?
First of all, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't touch me. My bad. Yeah, we just need writers to edit that. Like, if we had a staff of writers, they'd be like, yeah, we'll cut that. But
I'm sorry.
Essentially, it was a really good monologue.
Usually when I do my comedy, I don't have writers in the room. I actually write my own stuff.
Okay,
Oh,
I can tell.
Alright, at least he thought that was funny.
Maybe you should get it. But my point is...
For the rest of the podcast, George went into his own little world, except for when Bobby got his attention just so he could roast him again.
All right, George.
So sad.
What I'm saying is that when you were talking, we were here for that 30 minutes.
Eventually leading George to walk off the podcast, get in an Uber, and leave without saying goodbye. The episode received comments such as, "It's impossible to call yourself a comedian if you can't handle being slaughtered by other comedians, especially the Captain Bob himself. George tells everyone he's going to be the best comedian alive, but he can't take a joke from the legendary Bobby Lee. It's like a badge of honor. How does he think most comedians communicate with each other? I've always thought George thinks he's funnier than he really is. And when people
he looks like
roast
a
him, he
suck
gets
ass to me.
like this generation. Things became worse for George after this video by Jamari gained well over 1 million views, leading George to address the criticism in the following episode of Impulsive.
I couldn't hear him. The headphones. You didn't have headphones on.
I love that people were just commenting and getting so steamed. It made me realize, like, oh, I really don't care. I want it. I want to be in their heads more. Like, I like it.
Love how George is trying to act like he's not heard about this when he had to leave the pod because Bobby Lee, out of all people, almost made him cry. Dude is a clown. The week after George responded,
so you're upset.
Bobby Lee's podcast, Tiger Belly, where Bobby took a moment to talk about George's behavior.
What he did was unprofessional.
Yeah.
I was a guest.
Yeah.
He walked out on a guest.
Yeah.
If this guy right here walked out on a guest, he would be reprimanded.
Before roasting him yet again.
If you had walked out, right, it would have been like, oh, it's over. But him walking out was just kind of like, let's keep going.
Bobby and Logan then decided that they should get George on a call.
Can you give me his number?
You want to settle this right now?
Yeah, I'm going to call him right now.
Leading Bobby and George to fix their relationship.
I would apologize for my behavior on your podcast.
Bobby Lee, you shut your mouth. I'm apologizing to you. I left you. You were our guest.
I want to pull back my apology then. I too. I literally did not feel sorry.
I didn't feel sorry at fucking all.
I pulled out of the apology. I don't feel sorry, but I will accept yours, right? And hopefully, you know, when I come back to your podcast, we can make it right.
However, it was obvious that the whole thing had caused a serious fracture between George and Logan, becoming most obvious when they get into an almost hour-long argument, only 5 episodes after the Bobby Lee podcast.
I know people that hate me, that treat me better about my faith than you, and you're my best friend. One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus. That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you, which is true.
No, you didn't. And I won't stand down. No, you didn't.
What do I need a therapist for then? Jesus isn't doing it for you, and I
What do I
believe
need
you're
a therapist for?
I don't believe you're as
Well, I think you're
emotionally
proving you need a fucking
I'm not
therapist.
emotionally
I don't need a
mature.
therapist.
Could you pick a time
I
any day of our
Sure.
life?
Here's one. 3 weeks ago, when you were sitting in that chair, you stormed off this exact podcast because you're upset about something a comedian said.
Logan did apologize in their very next episode together.
My attitude towards you on that episode and my belittling of your beliefs was not appropriate at all.
However, George seemed to realize that his days on Impulsive were numbered, as he created his own podcast before clickbaiting the first episode with the title, Why George Jango is Not on Impulsive, implying that he'd left the group. George used the video to explain that this hadn't really happened.
Obviously, I'm still on Impulsive, guys. For any of you guys that are like, oh, their beef situation, and now he's starting his own, like, lane.
Even going so far as
He
to
has
say
over
their
1 million
relationship was as good
subscribers.
as
How?
ever.
Just because of the Impulsive.
In the perfect place.
Yet it was obvious that this clickbait video had annoyed Logan.
I'm just doing this for a couple weeks so then I could leave and clickbait that why I left Impulsive.
That's good. It's a good strategy. It's been done. It's been done many times, and it works.
By who?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you can make a real living for yourself.
Who's that one guy?
You've seen the model.
Resulting in more and more uncomfortable
Joe?
moments on the
Something like
podcast.
You don't give a shit about this show anymore, let's be honest. It's like bands that hate each other that have to get on stage every night and play for the audience. Like, yo, let's do our hit song. We don't like it. We have to sing.
That's not true. That's not true. I like Mike. George,
Well, he's about to
You don't say.
He's about to.
Only 3 episodes after comparing themselves to a band forced to play together, George disappeared from the show without warning, leading fans to speculate on whether or not he'd been booted. Mike refused to elaborate on the situation when asked by Aiden Ross.
Why is Georgie not on Impulsive anymore? Is that like you don't want to answer that?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Although only 1 month later on an episode of Jeff FM with Mike and Tana Mojo,
So
Tana
many
accidentally
shows.
said this.
I don't watch
You don't have
these.
a new Impulsive. I'm
That's
sorry.
a really annoying looking logo. I'm not gonna lie. Jeff FM.
Like, this is it.
At around the same point in time, George unfollowed both Logan and Mike on Instagram,
Oh,
which was followed by
that-
Impulsive changing their profile picture from this to this, as well as their banner from this to this. All
There's
of this
nobody
happened
there,
silently
he's
with no
shooting
input
everywhere.
from the hosts. However, on the 26th of April 2023, George would post to Twitter, "I wasn't going to talk, but now I
know,
am,"
you should just not
implying that
talk.
some pretty heavy stuff had gone down behind the scenes. Replies on the post encouraged George to keep the drama private, yet on the 31st of May, approximately 1 month later, another tweet was made stating, "To the Impulsive fans, I'm so sorry I can't speak about things, not my choice. I do love you guys, and for those of you sending me the clip of them
Toxic
talking
environment.
shit, it's all love. I've already moved on from that toxic environment," confirming that he was no longer on the podcast. The post received replies slamming George such as, "Mate, you sat there not speaking for 90% of the time.
We'll miss
What are we
you.
missing?
Silence?"
Silence?" To which he'd respond by stating, "You think I wanted to be quiet, ha ha ha." Yet this kind of
What?
statement is representative of why he's unsuitable for the podcast. He cares way too much about how other people view him. If you're the type of person who gets defensive and feels like you always have to be in the right, you're probably better suited to a Facebook
I feel like it
comment
probably
section
this
and
wouldn't
not a
have
comedy
lasted
on
long
YouTube.
anyway. Even if
Despite this,
Bobby
George has
Lee
seen
didn't
some
make a
success
couple
with the
jokes.
George Janko show, yet Logan hasn't been able to resist roasting George's low view count.
I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like.
Since then, George has stated that he simply wants to distance himself from Mike and Logan.
He said
I'm at a point right now where I want distance from both of them. I don't want anything to do with it, and I just move on.
Which seems to be the best possible outcome for everybody involved.
Jesus. All right, well, there you go. That's it. How one joke collapsed a popular YouTube podcast. I had no idea. I guess the Bobby Lee one's still good. I never watched it. I just know about it. All right. Well, there you go. I guess it didn't collapse it because it's still going. So I guess it collapsed it because the guy that doesn't talk left, and now there's somebody that does talk. I assume. I don't fucking know. Anyway, that's it. The guy seemed like a jackass, anyway, so I don't really care. That's it. Bye. I have no opinion. I don't care. Someone act like a jackass on podcast left.